So we're still essentially on what we were yesterday, but we were in the middle of a discussion which we didn't have a chance to complete. Hopes we to complete it last night, which did not happen. So I want to complete yesterday's discussion now. The line that we are on is about a third from the top of the page, Lamed Gimel. The line begins, Hareyesh Bateira B'chinas Helam Ha'atzmi. And we pointed out that from Birurim, and ultimately how Birurim are relating to Helam Ha'atzmi. Which is, Helam Ha'atzmi means that which is completely out of the realm of functional presences. Just the essential truth itself. We were giving them the mashal of various halachas in Torah. And we started talking about, yesterday, about the principle of tumor coming through an opening from one room to the other. And of course it depends on the size of the opening. And then that itself varies what that opening was made for and how it came about and so forth. If the person made the opening for one reason, then it's for one size, or for different reasons, another size. So we're pointing out that these differences have no functional significance. What does it mean that the opening was made for use? For use, it's a different kind of opening. Is it more of an opening or less of an opening? It was made for use or made for light. It's an opening, and you can crawl right through it. So, the principle behind this, I really would like it. I was hoping last night to have time to elaborate on this. We spoke over the years the principle of property ownership. And we explained that a human being, a yid, property ownership represents an element of his true presence in the world. In other words, it's not just a relative thing, that he stands there guard and guards his property till nobody should take it, like the animal. It is part of the initial mandate that he was given by his Creator. And the reason for that is, now how is it related to what he is? Because his presence in the world is to represent his Creator, to bring godliness into the world. Therefore, he actually represents the truth of existence, and he makes the world a world, makes the world complete and worthy of being. So, therefore, ownership goes hand in hand with the principle of his existence. Coming from this vantage point, we go a step further and we say, okay, he has, in terms of ownership, he goes and he makes houses. He said also all the time that he makes houses, he makes demarcation lines, he makes walls, he makes symbols that demarcate one property from the other. All of these symbols, and even the separation walls, are all representative, and they're all drawn from the same principle. There are no walls around Havdil animal dwellings. There must be walls around human dwellings. When Bilam observed our encampment in the desert, and he had ill intent. And when he saw the encampment, how the tents are all set up privately, turned from each other's openings away, he saw a godly phenomenon. The whole principle of a wall, that a home has walls around it, from a true human perspective, it is not the functionality of the home that demands it. It is the truth that it represents, because that he is a godly creature, presence. Therefore he has a true presence, and therefore he has to be separate and do his own thing separate from his neighbor. So that the whole concept of the wall itself is really representative of his godly element. It is not the physical wall that makes the wall a wall. It is the intent of the wall that makes it into a wall. If we can sense this and understand this, this is where all of these principles of the various kinds of walls come in. Like mentioned yesterday, a sukkah, if it has just an indicator, it's a wall. Shabbos has a little symbol of a wall, it's a wall. And a similar thing, we're talking about the tomb over here, there's a wall between two rooms, and there's an opening. Is the opening an opening, or it's just a physical opening doesn't make it an opening? Is it a real opening? Is this opening meant to be an opening, or it just happens to be? As a matter of fact, there is a lot of differences whether the opening happened by nature, in other words, it broke, or it was opened up intentionally. A wall represents the truth of the human being, the godly truth of the human being, and the opening represents the truth of the godly presence that the human being represents. And this is when it becomes an opening. And this is why, if the opening is made for one purpose, it is an opening of one size. If it's made for a different purpose, it's an opening, it has another size. Because it is not defined by its physical presence, it's defined by its, you could say, the godly presence.
The halacha, just by curiosity, if it's an intentional hole, the tumah goes through, and if it's not an intentional hole, it doesn't go through?
Right. It depends on the circumstances. If it's complete, if there's no there's no wall it goes through, but I'm saying if it breaks, it's a different size. Yeah.
I'm trying to understand why ownership is the godly expression of what God intends. And then further...
Right, stop right there. Your door is locked. And it is locked because there are, unfortunately, dishonest people who would enter your home without permission. But from your vantage point, from your own understanding, is it necessary to indicate that this is a private property and you don't enter it only by a lock and key? And by 3 different locks? Or if I have a door and the door is closed, that should be sufficient to keep intruders out.
It used to be that you just closed your door and
that was sufficient. Yeah.
Yes.
Why? Okay, yeah, I need a place to sit down. I have my satchel with me. I want to sit down and have breakfast. I'll go into this house and I'll sit down and have my breakfast.
No doubt it seems to be innate to people to do such things.
Now, you ought to think into that sense. This is what we are doing. We're elaborating and saying the reason you sense that is because you sense that your presence, human presence in the world, has, as we said, is a presence by right, not by what's the word? By default. By happenstance. We had a whole discussion. Right, who gave him the right and who has the right to give a right? It goes all the way down to the fundamental reality of existence. It is true that there is a secular view of human life where the laws are based on, I said, on conventional right. But this is only. Okay, let me discuss this for a moment because we always have this problem. That it would seem that all these laws are based on convention. We agree to respect each other's property. Therefore, there is not a fundamental. It doesn't relate to a fundamental truth. You have to understand the following. These laws and they say that they're based on agreed upon convention. The allusion to agreed upon convention is not to justify the law. It is to justify the enforcement of the law. Which means this. That in order that the human being is a human being, he is not God. On what basis is he forcing, so to speak, his idea upon me? Maybe I have a different idea. He says he knows what the right is. I say I know what the right is. This is why, so therefore we say, okay, let's agree upon this is conventionally agreeable. And therefore, quote unquote, society forces itself on the individual. That's not speaking from the perspective of what the human intellect perceives. This is just to be able to force the issue, to enforce this law. But the principle itself, everyone understands. Like I said all the time, a person who says that the worst part of stealing is to get caught, we have no respect for him. He says that he is lacking human intellect. Why? Because we understand that despite the secular establishment, that is not what defines the truth. This is what's happening, unfortunately, in the universities, where they cite there is no God, Islam, and there is no essential truth, and therefore the only truth is really this convention, and they're destroying themselves. I mean, it's unfathomable the thought process that's going through them. But we truly don't subscribe to it. Not only we don't subscribe to it, no one subscribes to it. They accept it by force. You have to be progressive, you have to be smart. Okay, is that explained to you?
Yeah, I mean, how can a person every morning wake up? You have to rediscover yourself.
Okay, but nevertheless, you understand
Yes.
this, right? So now I'm saying, so if ownership of property reminds you, or puts you, so to speak, face to face with the presence of the Creator, the absolute same thing is everything that goes along with it. It's the demarcation lines. It is only a line substantiating the fact that that God said every individual person has his own place. Not only that, there are rooms. There's a room that is a bedroom, there's a room that is a dining room. The different functionalities deserve to have different rooms, different areas. Even when we lived in very cramped quarters and we had the bedroom and the dining room, living room all together, we had the curtain separating. Something has to separate. For tznius purposes, you can't intermix the two things. Why? Because of the godly element in human life. The pasuk says in last week's parsha, in next week's parsha, it says that when troops are stationed in a field, guarding an area, they have to have a place dedicated for cleaning oneself. They should not do it right in the middle of the camp. And it says, not because it's offensive to the human being. What does it say?
Campus holy.
Because Hashem is walking with you. It says before in the pasuk. This is the principle that Torah brings into the world. And this principle, to 1 minute, this principle, as we say again, since we are not talking in terms of functionality, we're talking in terms of principle. Principle is relating to etzem. Functionality relates to koiches, to ideas, to experiences. This is beyond that. This is a principle. A principle means that you're talking about the godly presence itself, not godliness. It should be a pure, nice place. You're offending the God because you act this way. This is the principle that Torah also relates, brings the union from Atzmos, Etzem Tanago Hanela, Etzem Tanago.
Again, this shows that Torah brings Etzem Tanago Nelam because
anything that is based entirely on pure principle, no functionality, where is it coming from?
So that makes it beyond Chokhmah.
That brings beyond Chokhmah.
And any explanation is after the fact, just to justify and practice.
Yeah, that's only an explanation after the fact is as follows: is to identify the details of how do you actually affect the scene.
Or to communicate it to others, like you said.
To communicate to others.
But the inner basis.
The principle itself comes from a sense of principle reality. Like we said, the ultimate is that there is such thing as a truth. Therefore, it has to be identified and recognized here.
And these halachas are what we had today, ownership, or previously Tuma. These are Mishalim on this principle. Right?
That's right, they are derivatives of that truth. Otherwise, it don't make sense. I mean, if it's based on making sense, then it's completely different. Then a wall is a wall. And an opening is an opening.
Yeah.
Say no. It's an opening only by definition, by God's definition it's an opening. What are you talking about? Okay, it's late. Okay, I'm before Mikrian. Okay, have a good day.
Elul the Foster invites everyone to his wedding anniversary party, the Shabbos.
Elul. Yeah.
Yes.
670. What is it?
678. 738.
Ki